Hey guys, happy Thursday. Doesn't feel like a Thursday. I know we have a short week this week since we had Memorial Day weekend or Memorial Day on Monday. So my days are a little off. I kept thinking yesterday that today was Friday, which makes no sense because 4 days, I don't know. So my days are completely off right now. But welcome to the next episode or this week's episode of Bless This Nest. I have been going live now. I think this will be the fourth or fifth time. I know it's the fourth week in the Bless This Nest official series. So I'm still learning. I've been going live on my personal page for a little while now with a fellow real estate agent, but still trying to figure out how to start these things. So bear with me through my awkwardness at the beginning, right? For those that don't know me, I'm Mariana Pearson. I am a real estate agent. I own Modernist Real Estate Group. I'm a real estate agent out of DFW, so Dallas, Texas area. I know a lot of you that follow this page are from all over the world. So what I want to do is if you're jumping on and you're joining me with these videos, please let me know, introduce yourself, say hi, let me know where you're coming from too. I'm super interested to see where people live that are following this page as well. So, and let me know, I kind of wanted to start today's video with a question to see how are you guys doing in quarantine. I know we're in it feels like week 100 right now of quarantine here in Texas, but restrictions last week kind of just got lifted and things are opening back up. So we're slowly getting back to kind of a new norm. I know we're taking still a lot of precautions with wearing masks and, just keeping a safe distance. Businesses are doing 6-foot rules, things like that, but I'm trying to do a really good job at not watching the media right now just because there's so many mixed reviews on what's going out there, and I don't feel like my anxiety level can handle some of the stuff that the media puts out there. So I've been just kind of ignoring what, all the noise and just knowing what I need to know to stay safe and everyone around me to stay safe and healthy, and all that good stuff. So let me know where you're coming from. How is quarantine going? Are you guys still in quarantine? Are you finally out and about and getting to go to restaurants and things like that? Because we're slowly getting there. So again, Mariana Pearson, I am out of DFW. I see more people are joining on, so I just wanted to introduce myself again. And this week, we are still in our first-time homebuyer bootcamp series. So if you're jumping on for this, you're in the right place. This is week 4. We have gone through the last 3 weeks of the boot camp, and if you guys have missed any of those videos, you can always go back to watch the videos live. They're all being recorded as well, and I go ahead and post the lives afterwards too, so you can always go back to watch them at any time, or if there's a part that you missed, you can always rewind once the lives are done. So but this first-time homebuyer bootcamp series, just a quick reminder, is for anybody who's looking to buy their first home in the next either 3 months, 6 months, a year from now, 2 years from now. The goal of this bootcamp was not necessarily to tell you everything step by step of the home buying process. That's something I believe that your real estate agent should do with you face-to-face and really understand the market that you're in, understanding if you're not in DFW, obviously it's a little bit different from what I'm telling you guys, but really sitting down with you and kind of creating a personalized plan, if you will, for you and your situation and how you need to go about when it comes to buying your first home. But my goal for this first-time homebuyer bootcamp series is really just to prepare you guys. I know a lot of first-time homebuyers, it's a little nervous buying your first house. I remember when we bought our first house, at that point I was a real estate agent, so I kind of knew the process, so I may not have been as nervous, but I do remember there being a lot of steps, to lending that I wasn't aware of. There's just a lot of anxiety that comes with purchasing a home. Are you going to like your neighbors? What happens if you have issues down the road with the house? Just so many different emotions when buying your first house that first-time home buyers like to come in prepared. And I am one of those people that I love to be prepared and know what I need to know before I step into a situation. And so I always want to make sure that my first-time home buyers feel comfortable about the purchase that they're making, feel comfortable about the process. Our goal as a real estate agent is not to just help you, we're not salespeople. I was telling someone this the other day. at least I try not to be a salesperson. I'm not here to push you to buy or sell a house. That is not my job. My job is to consult you when the time comes and you are ready to buy or sell a house. So my job is to educate you. My job is to keep you on track throughout the process. My job is to be that resource and help guide you and hold your hand and work as a team, literally, as we go through the steps from the minute you decide you want to start, you decide you're going to purchase a house, all the way to the closing table. And even after the closing table, I'm still there to help you guys with home maintenance tips. Throughout the year, I'm helping you with property taxes and homestead exemptions, so many things that so many homeowners don't know about, and that is what I believe a real estate agent should be. So that was all unplanned of what I wanted to talk about, but I hope that that helps you guys understand why I'm doing this first time homebuyer bootcamp. So today I am talking about what happens when you find the one. In week 1, I talked about prepping, things you can do like to prepare your credit, things like that. Week 2, we talked about getting pre-qualified and working with a lender, what that looks like. Last week, we talked about the steps to setting up your custom home search and the criteria, what I look for and how I go about setting that up, and how we go through looking at houses. Now we are talking about what steps you need to take as a buyer in order to help prepare yourself now that you have found the one and you're ready to move forward with it. So a few things that I want to note. First of all, when you are touring a home, and this might have been something I should have talked about last week, but I just reminded myself this morning that I really want to talk about this. Before you ultimately decide that this is the one and that you want to make an offer, there are a few questions that I always tell my buyers to ask themselves just to be sure that they know that this is the one and we are ready and prepared to make an offer on it. So the first thing is double check that it fits all of your must-haves. So take away all the wants, that the property may have. It may have the nice big backyard, but when we first talked about what your needs were and what your wants were, a big backyard might have been a want, but not necessarily a need. So take those, put those to the side. It's great that it does have what you want, but focus on the needs. Does it have the 3 bedrooms we talked about that you need? Does it have the study you said you needed? Those are the things that later on down the road, I don't want you to call me, a year from now and go, oh my gosh, like we kept saying we needed that 3rd bedroom or that 4th bedroom. And here we are, we're wanting to sell because we absolutely do need that 4th bedroom. So does it fit all of your needs? That's the first question you want to ask yourself. The second thing you want to ask yourself before you decide that it is ultimately the one is, are you looking beyond the decor? So there are so many times that I walk through a house with a buyer and they fall in love with it and they're like, oh my gosh, the couch is so cute and the curtains, I love like the layout of this, it just feels so, and I'm like, okay, take all the furniture out of this house though and picture your furniture in the house, or if you decide you're gonna go buy new furniture, what you would put in here. That furniture is not going to stay, obviously, the seller most likely is gonna take it. Paint colors, if you are walking through a house and you absolutely hate the paint color, that's okay. Guess what? You can change the paint color. Same thing with flooring, countertops, anything like that that can be changed over time. Try not to focus so much on those things when you're walking through the house, unless you are very stuck on you want to move in ready, you don't want to have to make any changes, which that happens maybe, I don't know, 25% of the time for a first-time home buyer. Most first-time home buyers are excited to make their home their own and they want to at least do paint and flooring and all the basics with the updates. So try not to focus too much on those because you know that you can change those over time. But you do want to ask yourself, does the layout work for you? Does the layout fit your needs, the size, all that kind of stuff? So asking yourself that before you choose that it's the one is super important. All right, the third thing I always tell my buyers to ask themselves as we're walking through the houses before we decide to make an offer is, does the cost of the home reflect how much you want to spend? What I mean by that is, of course, we've already talked about pre-qualification and looking at your budget and determining what your monthly budget is and how much you can afford. Now, I usually am not showing you properties that are above your budget. We don't want to go there. That's why we talk about pre-qualification and how important it is for you to get pre-qualified before we even go look at houses. to make sure we're in the right price point. But what I mean by affordability is now is a time that you can even talk with your lender again and have them run a quick estimate on what is your monthly payment ultimately going to be for that property. What I mean by that is your taxes and insurance can vary from city to city, from county to county, from new construction to pre-owned. So if you want to get a better idea to make sure that that's going to fit your budget, have your lender run a quick estimate. Shouldn't take them very long to just say, here's the address. They can look up the tax rate and all that kind of stuff, get an estimate on insurance, and just give you kind of now an even closer quote to what you can expect in a monthly payment. So making sure it fits your monthly expenses and you know that you're good to go. So once you've asked yourself those 3 questions, you can now make an offer with confidence. It takes a lot of emotions out of a property. That way you're also prepared and knowing that you've done what you need to do in order to go in, make this offer, and you know that you want this house at this time. You're not going to have any second guesses or anything like that. And of course, steering option, which we'll get to here in a minute, doesn't mean that it's all set and done, but just doing that prep work before we go in and take the time to make the offer and negotiate and all that fun stuff. So now it's time to make an offer. This is the exciting part. This is when it gets real, right? So before we do that, your agent should be in contact with the listing agent. Usually as soon as we walk out the door, I'm on the phone calling the listing agent to say, hey, my client's planning to make an offer, just so they kind of know to expect an offer from us. That way another offer doesn't come in from behind that, or in that time period of me going back home and prepping the offer and talking to you and them accepting it. They need to know that you plan to make an offer. So there's some questions that I normally will ask the agent at this time. Those include, are you currently working any offers, right? We need to make sure if we're in a multiple offer situation or not. That can vary or can really make a difference on what kind of offer we're going to make. And if there is multiple offers, what does that look like? Do you guys have a deadline? Things like that I'm gonna ask them. Another question I always ask the listing agent at that point is, does your seller need a lease back? This is if it's occupied, meaning the sellers still live in the property. So if they need some sort of lease back, or what's kind of their time frame, what's their plan for their next house, this may be something that we can negotiate and help them out with, make it work for their schedule and your schedule as well. The next thing I ask them, I ask all the listing agents this as soon as you decide you guys want to make an offer. What items are you guys willing to include, or the seller's willing to include with the sell? So just kind of a side note, anything that's attached to the property, so the microwave, if the microwave is attached, because sometimes there's detached microwaves, but the dishwasher, the oven, any light fixtures, anything that the property is attached, or anything that's attached to the property and is not excluded from the listing, that is included with the sale of the property. But there are things like the washer and dryer and the fridge, which are the most common 3 things that most buyers want to include or negotiate to include with their offer, that are not initially included with the sale of the house. So those are things that I could ask about. Are they wanting to sell the fridge? Are they wanting to sell the washer and dryer? I have some people that buy furniture, so like couches, TVs, TV consoles, gym equipment. So there's all sorts of things that we can discuss and negotiate as part of your offer. The next question I always ask is, does the seller have a survey? So we just need to find out if they have a survey, because here in Texas, if you have a loan, it is required that we have a survey. This just helps us know, okay, is that something that we're gonna have to negotiate on, who pays for the new survey? If there is one, can we get a copy? Just kind of take a look at it so we know the boundary lines. And then the last question I always ask them, and sometimes I can even get this before we go to look at the property, is, do you have a copy of the seller's disclosure? So the seller's disclosure is going to be where the seller discloses anything they know to be wrong with the property, or the age of the roof, how long they've lived in the property, if the property has gas or electric. So basically anything the seller knows about the property, that seller's disclosure should include that. So this is also going to help you before you go to make an offer, because if you find out there is, $5,000 worth of repairs needed because they're disclosing this and the sellers are not willing to make those repairs, that's something you're going to want to consider before you make an offer if you're If those are required repairs that you're going to want to make, how are you going to make those? So that seller's disclosure is going to definitely be something that we request so we know about any known unknown issues or issues that we can't see. All right, so at this point, the next step I always take is I run comparables on the property. So what I mean by that is I'm going to take a look at the properties that have sold recently in the same, with the same criteria. So in the same area, around the same size, same type of upgrades, all that fun stuff, just to make sure that or just to take a look at the price. Because the listing price is there set for us kind of as a guideline to let us know what they are wanting for the property. From there, what I'm looking for is, do I think that the property may be slightly overpriced? Do I think it's slightly underpriced so they can sell it quickly? Do I think it's priced just right? I want to take a look at the price before we make an offer. And I also want to take into consideration that we also are going to have to get to the point of an appraisal, meaning value at least. So I really look at it from an appraiser standpoint because I want to make sure that when we get to that part of the contract, we're not coming up with too many hiccups. Now, of course, once the appraisal happens, that's kind of up to that appraiser what they value it at. But just want to take a look at the price. So when you go in to make the offer and we're figuring out a price that's correct, or that you feel comfortable in offering, that we are somewhere within a reasonable amount. So, and that makes sense for you to offer. Also at this point, we're going to need a pre-qualification letter. So we talked about this more in the last episode, or I guess 2 episodes ago, how important it was for you to start working with the lender, because we will need a pre-qual letter to submit with your offer, just showing that you are good to purchase the house at that price point. And then now that it's time to write the offer to submit to the sellers, I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail on this video on all of the terms because there are so many terms that are negotiable. But what I do want you guys to know is the offer does consist of more than just the price. So yes, price is usually pretty important to a seller when it comes to giving them an offer, but there's so many terms that can be negotiated, and ultimately almost every term inside of a contract, anywhere you see a blank, is going to be negotiable. So just keep that in mind when you're working with your agent, and your agent's job is to be able to guide you through what they think would be a reasonable offer, or help you understand what we are seeing as a norm, I guess you can say, with offers, depending on what kind of market we're in. But different things that you can negotiate other than offer price are the earnest money amount, the option money amount, how long of an option period you're requesting, the closing date. That one's super important. That's why I always call the listing agent before we make an offer, because I want to know what their time frame is for closing. Because if we're in a multiple offer situation, it may be more, what's the word? It may be more of they may be more attracted to your offer because we're giving them a closing date or a closing time frame that works for them versus just giving them the highest price. Like, that's more important to them than just getting the most money for it, is being able to stay in the house. So closing date can be negotiated. Who pays for what closing costs? So the title policy here in Texas is negotiable on who can pay for that. Again, depending on what market we're in, this is where I'm going to talk to you in more detail about, hey, this is what we're typically seeing, who's paying for the title policy, and what, who's paying for the survey if a new one's needed, so on. So really, this is, again, where your agent is going to help you with making the best offer for your situation as well. So what I mean by that is, if we're in a multiple offer situation, this can really make a big difference on what we're offering and what we can offer. And also a big difference on making sure that the closing date works for you as well as the sellers. So just keep in mind, again, price is not the end all, and working with cash also is not the end all. The financing terms are another thing that I hadn't mentioned yet, that we would talk about in terms of what to offer, or what your terms are for your loan or anything like that. But I have had several sellers that they accept a they accept a offer when we're in a multiple offer situation that may be financing because it was a first-time home buyer. They wrote them a little letter that they really, touched their heart and everything else. They chose that offer over a full price cash offer. And a lot of times with cash, I'm not saying this is end all, but what we see sometimes is cash offers don't tend to come in quite as strong with other terms because they think if they're cash, that means that's a strong enough thing. But again, I'm just wanting to make sure you guys understand that it's not all about price, really focusing on terms, coming up with terms that are a win for you, a win for the seller when you go to make your offer. So, and then at this point, once we've officially submitted the offer, this is when negotiations can begin. So I know my buyers get super nervous around this time. So my job is to not only help with calming those nerves, but this is why you have a real estate agent. We are here to communicate with the listing agent. We're here to do the negotiations. If you get an experienced agent, they know not necessarily just what to say, but they know how to say it. And they know that in the long run, the goal is to have a win-win. At least for me, the goal is to have a win-win. And sometimes my buyer may win a little bit more than what the seller wanted. But if the seller wants to ultimately get their home sold, that's just what it takes. So every situation is different. I want it to be a win for my buyers. I want them to feel confident in the offer they're making. I want them to feel confident in the ultimate decision that's made or negotiated on when we move forward. So during that time, that's a lot of communication that we have for negotiation. So just a side note also, because I get this question a lot. By the way, guys, I see people popping up. If you guys have any questions for me, the reason I'm doing these live videos is so I can be interactive with y'all. So if there's something I am talking about that you're interested in me going into more detail or you have questions about, feel free to ask them. I'm an open book. I'm happy to share all the things I know with you guys because, again, like I said at the beginning of this video, that's what I feel like my job is, to educate my buyers and educate people that I work with. So just as a side note, there is no set limit that the seller really has to accept or respond to your offer. I know that sounds kind of silly. Now, typically, I guess you can say it's kind of our rule of thumb, or it's, what do you want to call that? It's, I don't know. It's basically kind of a standard where we'll get an answer or some sort of response within 24 to 48 hours. But they don't have like a deadline usually, like, hey, you have until this time to, give us a response. Now, I can kind of push a deadline to the listing agent, but you want to be careful with that because sometimes if you get too pushy, they're kind of like, why are you, pushing us to give you an answer in 2 hours? Like, I've got other appointments. You're not that important. So I'm just saying you want to be super cautious with this where you're not being too pushy, but pretty much it's a standard, I guess you could say, within our within the business that 24 to 48 hours is a pretty comfortable time for the listing agent to talk to their seller and to give us some sort of response. This is why it's also important that we go ahead and submit the offer ASAP. So what I mean by that is let's not sit too long on deciding if you want to make an offer. That's why I say, ask yourself those questions while we're walking through the house. And usually my buyers, they know as soon as they walk into the house or they get through the walkthrough that this is a house they want to make an offer. So I try to submit my offer as soon as possible because they may be willing to work with the first offer that they get. So if there are multiple offers, that's a little bit different of a situation. Usually there's a deadline for highest and best. When they want, when the sellers want you to submit your highest and best offer. And at that point, they're just going to look at all offers. But ultimately, the listing agent has to do what the seller wants. So that doesn't mean if they get multiple offers that they have to set a deadline. They could just look at the offers as they come in and decide to choose whichever one they want. That's why it's super important for your agent to not only be communicating with the listing agent, to making sure or to see if they do have other offers, but also making sure we submit that offer as soon as possible because they may be willing again to work with the first offer. So they don't even have or other buyers don't even have a chance to write an offer. They're just going to go ahead and accept yours because they like the offer. It works for them too. I actually had that that happened this weekend, where as soon as we left the property, I had already kind of prepared an offer because I knew that they were very serious about this house. So we got back home Within 30 minutes, I was talking to them about the terms, confirming everything with them, sent the offer, and then 2 hours later, we were under contract because the agent was like, this is a strong offer. They really like it. We knew that there was a chance for there to be multiple offers because while we were there was a line out the door of people wanting to see the house. They, the sellers, to be honest, were like, I'm just done showing the property. We're in quarantine right now, and I just want to get this thing under contract. So I was like, yeah, let's submit as soon as possible, and that worked in our favor. So did they get multiple offers after that? I'm not sure, and of course they still had to show them those offers, but we went under contract, so at that point it didn't matter if they had other offers. So at this time, there are 3 things that an offer or seller can do with that offer once you send it to them. They can either accept the offer as is, they can negotiate the offer on any of the terms, again, not just price, they can negotiate other things, or they can reject the offer altogether. So just keep in mind that those 3 things can happen. It's your agent's job to communicate with the listing agent to see what's going on and kind of get some updates. But try negotiating back and forth as quickly as possible and also as efficiently as possible is key, because again, if you're in a certain market, you don't want another offer to come onto the plate and it just kind of ruin your negotiations. So, all right, so now we are under contract. Yes, walk through me in this hypothetical scenario. At this point, now that we are under contract, there are some things that you should be doing to prepare yourself for what's happening next. So once we come to an agreement, all parties have signed, we now have what's called an executed contract, meaning we are under contract, it's executed. The listing or the seller cannot sell to another property. They can accept backup offers, but they can't get out of the contract at that point. We're in an executed contract. There are going to be various parts of the offer that we're going to move through. So, hi, Chrisanne. I see you just joined me. How are you? I know you're not a first-time home buyer because I helped you buy your second house. But if you guys know anybody who's a first-time home buyer that can use this information, would love for you guys to share this video with them. So there are various parts of the offer. We need to make sure that we're meeting some deadlines. Again, this is where having a buyer's agent comes into place. Option and earnest money. So in Texas, we have what's called an option period. So typically it's a period of time. Again, I'm not going to go into details. This is something we'll do when we meet face to face or virtually, because it depends on what kind of market we're in. That during that time, this is when you have the option to back out of the contract. Now, I always tell my buyers this because I want them to know that yes, you have the right to back out of the contract during this option period. This is when we will want to get inspections done, when we will want to request any repairs. If anything major comes back on that inspection report that you don't feel comfortable with and it's just not something, it's too big for you to handle, then you do have the right to back out during that option period. So just know that, and just know that. But option, so you have an option fee that goes to the seller. You will lose that, unfortunately, during the option period. The earnest money, again, I'm not going to go into detail how much that is. We can talk about that face to face. But that earnest money that goes to title to kind of secure the contract and open title, you will get that back. It is a larger amount usually than our option period. So you get that amount back, but you do lose the option fee. And really that's kind of like your little security deposit that you put down because the seller is taking it off the market for you to be able to do inspections and have your option period. That's something that you're going to pay them for that time. Then during this time, you're going to be in communication with both me and your lender a lot with your lender, because they're going to be requesting all the missing documents and just things that they need to secure the loan. And then communicating with me to make sure that title and everything else is going to be set. You're also going to be getting weekly updates from me. So on any next steps that you have coming up or updates from the previous week, just to prepare yourself. So some of these things could be, when to schedule your home inspection, what, the option fee, how much that was, just a reminder who to make it out to, things like that. When to prepare or when to set up for your homeowner's insurance, your home warranty, just so many parts to the process from the time we go under contract to close that your agent should be walking through step by step and keeping you up to date and in the loop the whole time. And when you're working with a buyer's agent, like, you should never be left in the dark. You should not have to, I mean, maybe I shouldn't preach on this too much, but get in trouble with other agents. But I just don't think you should be having to, like, reach out to your agent all the time. I think your agent should be the one reaching out to you. So I make sure that that communication is ongoing at all times, where, like I said, you're at least getting a weekly update from me. And anytime something new is needed, or something that's a more immediate need, I'm making sure I'm communicating through either, well, text is usually the key communication for most of my buyers, which I'll find out what your preferred method of contact is, when we meet. But just making sure that you're staying on top of it. I mean, my job is to stay on top of it. That is our job. So just want to make sure that you guys understand you should never be left in the dark with what's happening. So congratulations. You just finished week 4 and my whole home buyer boot camp series. Again, the goal of this first time home buyer bootcamp series was to prepare you guys and kind of give you some insight on what it's like to purchase your first home. If and when you set up a buyer's consultation with your real estate agent or with us, at that point, we will sit down and talk to you guys more in detail about your situation, the market we're in, the terms of contracts, things like that. But hopefully you guys have some sort of information and you feel a little more prepared now that you've gone through this full 4 weeks of the buyer bootcamp. I also just want to remind you guys, if you haven't already requested for our first-time home buyer bootcamp freebie, go ahead and shoot us either a DM or post below that you want a copy of that freebie, and we will send you the link so you guys can get that. And also, I know I've been going live every week, every Thursday at 11 a.m., which I'm going to continue to do for this first-time homebuyer series, but I'm actually going to take all the content that I talked about in each of these videos, and I'm working on recording them, recording the same content into shorter videos, so like they're 5 minutes or less, and turning this into a year-round bootcamp to where you guys can sign up at any time, get the same information, get all the handouts that I mentioned throughout the series. And if you guys want to share that or tell anybody who is looking to buy their first home in, again, 3 months, 6 months, a year, 2 years, doesn't matter how long, and they want that information, please have them reach out to us or message us or comment below. Let us know that you'd be interested in getting being a part of that first-time homebuyer bootcamp series. It's going to happen all in 1 week. You'll get an email every day with a new video. So it just makes it a little bit easier if these lives aren't your jam. But if you guys also have any questions for me about buying a home, or even, well, next month we're going to be talking about selling. So that is going to be next month, the whole month of June. We're going to be doing a not first time home seller. Well, I guess it could be, but we're going to just be doing a generic sellers bootcamp series. So this month was first time home buyers. Next month is going to be a sellers bootcamp. So tune in every Thursday at 11 a.m. Starting next week, I'm going to be kicking off that sellers bootcamp series, talking about what you need to be doing to prepare to sell your house. But if you guys have any questions about buying, selling, real estate, whatever it is, please send us a message. Please comment below. I think our contact information, like our phone number, our email, all that is also on Facebook. So you can reach out to us any of those ways and we will be happy to answer those for you. Also, go check out our Instagram page. In our story highlights, I put in, you guys had some questions for me throughout the last month about buying. So I put a buyer highlight on there with some Q&As that you guys had and answered those. And I'll be doing the same thing with sellers as we're doing the seller bootcamp. So that way they're there for you. They are there for you at any time that you need to go back and see those and get them answered. And if you guys do have any other questions that aren't on there, just let us know. So we will see you guys next Thursday at 11 a.m. Again, this is Bless This Nest. I'm Mariana Pearson, owner of Modern Nest Real Estate Group. I want to thank you guys for joining me every week as I go live and I learn this new thing of Bless This Nest. If you guys want any other or have any other topic ideas, please let me know too, because I want to know those so I know what to go live about. All right, have an awesome weekend, guys. I will see you next week.